Hi. Hi, I'm JJ. I'm a partner architect on the Technical Alliances team. I own all the major integrations with Chef and VMware. As you can tell, I'm wearing a sports coat, so I know things about VMware. Yes, I actually got awarded the V-Expert this year for the work I've been working in the community. And yes, I have V-Expert at chef.io. I do actually have that alias. So, just out of curiosity, practitioners, raise your hand. Okay. Decision makers, raise your hand. People who are just curious, raise your hand. Okay. All right. Nice. I like it. So, the beauty of Chef and VMware boils down to the typical Chef story, right? Where we have plugins that allow for provisioning configuration, patch and drift management, data center modernization, cloud infrastructure migration, and compliance auditing, as you can read on the slide. But the beauty of it is, and the things I want to highlight is when I go to a customer or talk to a customer who uses VMware and they're just looking at Chef, turns out there's a lot of people out there who still use heavy golden images. They create a template from some system, they stamp that out, and they completely forget about what's on that machine. As you can tell, that actually answers the patch and drift management, because do you know what is on that machine in 6 months? Probably not. Have we all heard of, what was it, Heartbleed? Yes. Yeah, I see some nodding. Yeah, if you have golden images, that won't work. Using inspec, which I'll talk about quite a bit in this talk, or at least ideally, the continual validation of the node, of the entity of that machine is extremely valuable. And also, if you are using VMware on AWS, anyone? We got one? Awesome. There's a couple relevant things for you on this. Everything that we test with Chef works with VMware on AWS. Now, if you want to know more about it, I'd love to have that conversation with you after this talk, because there's some really interesting use cases there. So you've probably seen this slide before, but this is the typical workflow that you use with Chef, right? You start out with Test Kitchen in your local development environment. You use Chef Automate across the stack. Yes, yes, JJ, yes, yes, okay. That's how you pay me. Then, inside of pre-production, you might be using VMware on AWS, which is the one I'm showing here, or you could just have it inside of another demo or staging environment. And then you might have your on-prem production, and you have all the same tooling that we walked through there. As you notice, we have inspec here because we have some inspec integrations. It gives you the continual compliance and visibility of your environment using Automate across this board. We have some really awesome things coming down the line, which I will allude to here in a moment. Now, you probably have come to the VMware talk to be like, okay, there's like 1 trillion different plugins. Where does everything fit? Now, I realize this diagram is a logical diagram, and this isn't, accurate, but this is where everything fits in. So who actually uses VRO, vRealize Orchestrator? I'm sorry, no, I'm kidding. We actually have 2 plugins that talk directly to it. We even have a Test Kitchen plugin that talks directly to calling out workflows to do that work. And we have Knife vRealize that can actually talk directly to VRO to kick off a workflow if you need to. Who uses VRA? Oh, wow, actually, good amount. We have 2 plugins, once again, Knife vRealize and Kitchen VRA that can drive catalogs inside of VRA. Now, the challenge is we focus mainly on the node, right? Getting the VM. So we don't do a lot of advanced work there, but we can drive anything catalog you create. And if you have questions more about VRA and things it can do from the Chef view, because what we can do is we drive it just like another cloud, I'd love to have that conversation with you. Who uses vCenter? There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. Who uses vCenter 6.5? 6.7? That's good. All right. That's good. 5.5? We got a couple 5.5s. Okay. So we have 3 plugins. Actually, we have 4, but I'm not going to talk about the 4th. We can talk about that one over beers later if you want. um, we have a test kitchen plugin called Kitchen vCenter. We have Knife vSphere and Knife vCenter. Kitchen vCenter and Knife vCenter all are going towards the new vAPI, which is inside of 6.5. So if you use vCenter 6.5 and forward, Chef, we have 2 new plugins for it. I see Sean here. I'm going to stand up and say hi, Sean. Come on, Sean. He's right there. He's the main maintainer of Knife vSphere, which also works with 6.5, I should say, but it focuses on the SOAP API. He's done some amazing work with it, and I have more customers using that day in and day out than anything. And I really do thank you for the work you do. Now, as you notice, I don't talk about InSpec at all in this thing, because I wanted to talk about how we can drive the VMware stack just like any other cloud. Now, I realize that's a little bit of a turn for some people because they have, well, I just bought all this VMware stuff. I want to use the VMware tooling. I just want to show you that you have the opportunity, just like you would do with Azure, just like you would do with AWS, or DigitalOcean for that matter, and use the same kind of tooling and the same kind of things. So if you're learning from the outside, it's a great way to drive it. So I'm going to focus on Knife vCenter, Kitchen vCenter, Knife vSphere here. Now, I have a few other deeper, well, as I can't speak, I have some more integrations and a great little slide presentation at that bit.ly. And yes, I have a slide at the end you can take a picture of and get all access to all this stuff later. But this is the logical way it works. As you can see, you have your 3 main integration points, because that's really 95% of the people that I talk to. You can talk to AWS or vCenter on-prem. You have Knife vRealize Automation and vRealize Orchestrator. It's just another way of looking at it. It's your typical workflow working across the line. All right. Who knows what these are? Yes, JJ, I know. There we go. We got one. Awesome. So instead of driving VRA or vCenter outside in, we actually have some integrations inside of VRA and VRO. The 2 or 3, I should say, I want to highlight are we have 2 example blueprints on VMware code that I published about a year ago that are still accurate. One for Linux and one for Windows. Now, I'm going to go ahead and answer a question that I shouldn't. Because we're all friends here, right? Yeah, okay, good. I try to make jokes and nobody ever laughs. There we go. Excuse me. So if you look at VRA, you may have noticed that they have a nice little funny little puppet logo inside of the blueprint builder. If you actually look at how it does and how it works, it's just a GUI. That's all it is. Our blueprints here, the one for Linux and Windows, does the exact same thing for Chef. You just tack on to the end. It's just, I believe it's a extra parameter where it just calls out to Bash or calls out to PowerShell to inject the Chef client. So if you have a VRA admin that is really deep, or a VRA blueprint developer that is really serious about this thing, these two demo blueprints are a great way of showing those things off. Now, let's talk about VRO. I saw a couple of hands about VRO, and Chef doesn't own the VRO plugin. I don't know if I was supposed to say that out loud, but I just did. I do have a demo here as a YouTube video of me showing a typical workflow using VRO. It is basically Knife. So anything you can do with Knife inside of VRO, if that is your main orchestration layer, it would be just like calling out to your Knife or your Chef server using Knife, just with pretty graphs or pretty pictures. Okay. Now this is one of the reasons why I really wanted to have this talk. Whose company requires you to get OVAs to deploy anything inside of vCenter? We got a few? I was hoping more than that. Okay. Put a lot of work into this. I am now deploying, and I have beta tested Chef Server, Chef Automate A1 and A2 OVA deployments. So if you're in an air-gapped environment, if you need a rapid way to deploy the Chef stack, Chef platform, this is a great way to use it. I have a request form here It's just a Google form. I would love for some people to, if they're willing to beta test it, come together, come answer that, and we'll start talking to you about it getting in. I was really hoping more people were like, yay. There we go, thank you, yay. So, in these types of talks, we should talk about best practices. Whenever I talk to a customer at VMware, they're always like, JJ, what are the best practices? Well, I'm going to give you the 3 best practices I always say no matter what. Excuse me. First of all, who bakes their Chef client into their templates? No! Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. No. So, I'll give you a quick rundown on why. You may have noticed that we released Chef 14 relatively recently. You probably have baked Chef 12 into that template. It's a pretty big gap. Chef client moves fast. And unless you know exactly what you're doing with Test Kitchen, when you spin up a machine using Test Kitchen inside of VMware, it defaults and installs the newest version. So, short story, you're probably not testing what you have inside your template when you deploy it if you're using Test Kitchen. And you should be using Test Kitchen creating a pipeline. So do not put that Chef client in there. Use the plugins that we have, like Knife, or the VRA plugin, or the VRO plugin, to get the client down there. So how many people like Terraform? Yeah, all right, there we go. I have an example blog here using Terraform, vCenter, and Chef. It will give you a way, basically a basic template, for lack of a better term, of how to get Terraform, vCenter, and Chef working all together. Terraform for provisioning your stack. vCenter obviously is your management layer. And then Chef doing your day 1, day 2. It's pretty straightforward. There's a little bit of an incantation you need, but it all works. So who here, before they came here, had never touched InSpec? Okay, we got a couple. The beauty of using InSpec inside of your data center, you can use it both for compliance automation, which is one of the stories you've probably heard quite a few times here. And the next one is actually integration testing. Using InSpec to do integration testing for your cookbooks is unbelievably powerful. Now, I don't have any examples here, mainly because it's just something by force of habit I do now. But if you haven't gone down that path, pull me aside after this talk, and I'd love to show you some demos. Is anyone going to do that? Hey, we got one. Awesome. So let's talk about a couple of future plans here. Yeah, I heard, was there a what there? Yeah. Yeah. NSX. Who likes NSX? You're all lying. Nobody likes NSX. NSXT. There you go. So, at this moment in time, I have gotten some POCs done validating NSX and ESXi using InSpec to validate those changes. So in theory, you could have continual compliance at the hypervisor and network layer using InSpec, which hopefully by the last couple of days, you realize it's pretty easy to read. So having that and putting that in front of your admins, or you using it yourself, and have that confidence. So once again, you might find me later with a beer. I might talk a little bit more about that. But we're being recorded right now, right? Yes. That was a joke. Anyone? No? Okay. So very soon, we will be validating 6.7, just because as of VMware pushing so hard for 6.7 to be out there, they made some major changes with the vAPI and the way the cloning is done. It will happen very soon. I don't have a timeline yet, but as nobody raised their hands using 6.7, that's good to know. And the challenge of VMware, but the beauty of VMware, is that there's only so many different ways to create your infrastructure, or at least have all the different the pieces fit together. By this time next year, I'm saying this recorded, of course, so now I'm actually committed to it. I'm planning on having some common reference architectures, some ways to show how all these pieces come together and what tools you would use if you had X, Y, and Z. Haven't actually figured out how to do it yet, but it will be done. Because I know everyone loves RAs, right? Yes? I saw Julian wink over there. He's like, yeah, you're going to do it, do you? Anyone? No? Okay. So here's my final slide. And this is the one I would like, if you're taking pictures, this is the one I'd like you to take pictures of. This is all the information you need to know about how to integrate Chef and VMware. As you can see, Chef Automate plus VMware, continual compliance for your data center, and all of the links here. My slides here are at the bottom. And if you have any questions, I'd love to answer them. Thank you, everybody.